There is a legal doctrine called the sole executive agreement. It appears in no law Congress ever passed, and it has bound the United States to foreign nations since 1937, the year the Supreme Court ruled that a president's signature alone carries the same force as a treaty. No Senate vote required, no repeal mechanism written anywhere, and once it's signed, you are already living under it. Here's what it actually is. The Constitution requires treaties to clear 2/3 of the Senate, Article II, written so no single person could bind the country to a foreign power alone. A sole executive agreement is the workaround. The president negotiates directly with another head of state, signs, and it takes effect immediately. No debate, no ratification vote, no hearing required first. It looks like a treaty. It functions like one. It overrides state law like one. But constitutionally it isn't one, which means none of the safeguards built for treaties apply to it. That gap isn't an oversight. It's the entire mechanism. It wasn't legislated into existence. It was ruled into existence. In 1937, United States v. Belmont upheld an executive agreement Franklin Roosevelt made with the Soviet Union, the Litvinov Assignment, seizing private American bank accounts to settle a diplomatic dispute without a single senator voting. The court said presidential authority over foreign affairs didn't need Congress's permission. 5 years later, United States v. Pink went further. Sole executive agreements preempt state law, the same as a ratified treaty, the same as the Constitution itself under the Supremacy Clause. Nobody amended anything. Nobody held a floor vote. Two rulings, 5 years apart, quietly built a second treaty power running parallel to the one the framers wrote down and left it entirely in one person's hands. Today, the president alone decides when to use it. There's a reporting law, the Kay-Zablocki Act of 1972, requiring the White House to notify Congress within 60 days after signing. Notice, not approval, not a vote. Agreements touching national security can be reported to committees in secret and never surface publicly at all. Congress finds out the same way you would, after it's already binding, being told it already happened. Remember, no one voted for this, and here's where it stops being abstract. In 1981, Reagan used a sole executive agreement to end the Iran hostage crisis, and buried inside it was a clause nullifying lawsuits American citizens and companies had already filed against Iran in U.S. courts. Real plaintiffs, real judgments, erased by a signature retroactively because a president decided a foreign policy outcome mattered more than a citizen's day in court. The case, Dames and Moore v. Reagan, reached the Supreme Court, which upheld it broadly, confirming a sole executive agreement can override rights a U.S. court already granted, without the people who lost them getting a vote, a hearing, or a warning. That's the power sitting inside this doctrine. It isn't rare. Since 1939, presidents have signed more executive agreements than the Senate has ratified treaties in the entire history of the country, by roughly 15-1. Most Americans have never heard the term. Everyone can touch trade, extradition, sanctions, military basing, without your representative ever casting a vote. And here's the part that should actually worry you: it's completely legal. No statute lets Congress cancel a sole executive agreement once it's in force, because Congress never had authority to make it in the first place. You can't repeal a power you were never granted. The only exit is a future president voluntarily withdrawing, or a court striking it down, and courts have shown, repeatedly, they'd rather defer to the executive on foreign affairs than referee it. The doctrine was never built with an off switch. It runs entirely on judicial deference, which means the lock isn't political. It's structural, sitting above the one branch designed to check it. If a body of law this consequential can exist purely through court rulings, with no legislative fingerprint anywhere on it, ask what else in this government runs the same way. Ask how many other doctrines are sitting quietly inside case law right now, never voted on, never repealable, waiting for an administration willing to use them at scale. The Constitution's checks assume every major power passes through an elected body first. This one didn't. It passed through 9 appointed judges, twice, 80+ years ago, and it has been expanding, unchallenged ever since. So the real question isn't whether a president will use this again. They already have thousands of times. The question is how many other unvoted powers are sitting dormant in the case law, fully legal, just waiting for someone in office who finally decides to use them.